The hidden betrayal behind the Battle of Rook's Rest. What if I told you that one of the bloodiest dragon battles in Targaryen history wasn't just a military clash, but a calculated assassination orchestrated by the very people who should have been allies? Buckle up, because the Battle of Rook's Rest is way more twisted than you think. Before we dive into this web of treachery and dragon fire, make sure you hit that subscribe button and smash the notifications bell so you never miss another deep dive into the secrets of Westeros. Trust me, you're going to want to see what is coming next. Now, let us set the scene. It is early in the Dance of the Dragons, and Team Green needs a win desperately. The Blacks are dominating the Riverlands, and Rhaenyra is sitting pretty on Dragonstone, thinking she's got this civil war in the bag. Meanwhile, Aegon II is throwing tantrums in King's Landing because nobody is taking him seriously as king. Classic Aegon, right? The guy has the emotional maturity of a toddler with a crown, and he is about to make a decision that will literally burn him alive. But here's where things get interesting, because while everyone thinks this battle was about capturing a strategic castle, it was actually about removing a very specific problem. And that problem wore a crown. Let us talk about what the history books tell us first. Lord Staunton of Rook's Rest declares for Rhaenyra, which is basically like painting a giant target on your castle. Cole the Cruel, Criston Cole, decides to march his army there and use the Lord as bait. The plan? Lure a dragon rider from Dragonstone, have Aemond waiting in the clouds with Vhagar, and boom, instant dragon barbecue. Simple, effective, and absolutely brutal. Rhaenys takes the bait, riding Meleys the Red Queen. And what follows is one of the most spectacular aerial battles ever witnessed in Westeros. Dragons screaming, fire everywhere, soldiers melting in their armor. It is basically Michael Bay directing a medieval war film, except the explosions are replaced with biological weapons of mass destruction that can fly. But here's what they do not teach you in Maester School. Aegon II was never supposed to be at that battle. Let that sink in for a moment. The king, the guy everyone is supposedly fighting to protect, shows up unannounced on Sunfire and throws himself into a fight against the most experienced dragon rider on Team Black. Why would he do something so catastrophically stupid? Because Aegon has the strategic thinking of a golden retriever chasing a squirrel into traffic. He heard there was going to be a battle, got jealous that Aemond was getting all the glory, and decided to prove he was a real warrior king. Spoiler alert, he was not. Now here is where the conspiracy theories start cooking hotter than dragon flame. Aemond was already there, hidden above the clouds on Vhagar, the absolute unit of dragons, the B-52 bomber of Westeros. He was supposed to wait for the perfect moment, dive down, and annihilate whoever showed up from Dragonstone. Clean, efficient, and with minimal risk. But then his idiot brother flies in on Sunfire, and suddenly Aemond has a choice to make. Does he save his brother immediately, or does he wait just a little bit longer than necessary? Because what actually happens is that Meleys and Sunfire tear into each other like a couple of blenders filled with knives, and Aemond just kind of hangs back watching the show. It is only after both dragons and riders are seriously damaged that Vhagar finally enters the fight. Think about that for a second. The largest, most powerful dragon in the world, ridden by one of the most skilled dragon riders alive, just happened to be a few seconds too late to prevent his brother from getting absolutely wrecked. Aemond could have intervened the moment Aegon engaged Meleys. He could have made it a 2-on-1 from the start and ended the fight in minutes. But he did not. Instead, he let his brother fight alone against a vastly more experienced opponent riding a battle-hardened dragon. That is not a mistake, that is a choice. And the results? Aegon gets roasted like a rotisserie chicken, falls from the sky, shatters half the bones in his body, and spends the next several months barely clinging to life and pumping himself full of milk of the poppy. Sunfire, that beautiful golden dragon, gets his wings shredded and will never fly the same way again. Meanwhile, Aemond walks away without a scratch and immediately becomes Prince Regent, taking control of the entire Green War effort. Convenient, right? It is almost like someone saw an opportunity to remove an incompetent king and took it. Let us examine Aemond's motives here, because this guy has more issues than a flea-bottom brothel has fleas. He has spent his entire life being the spare, the one-eyed second son who does everything right but will never inherit anything because he had the misfortune of being born second. He is smarter than Aegon, better trained, more disciplined, and infinitely more dangerous. But none of that matters because Aegon popped out of the womb first. Every time Aegon makes a stupid decision, which is basically every time Aegon makes a decision, Aemon has to watch and seethe quietly. The resentment has been building for years, festering like an infected wound, and Rook's Rest gave him the perfect opportunity to do something about it. Think about it from Aemon's perspective. His brother is a liability, a drunken fool who is going to get them all killed. The war is too important, the stakes are too high, and Aegon is treating it like a game. If Aemon truly wants to win this war and secure his family's legacy, he needs to be in charge. But he cannot just murder his brother outright. That would turn everyone against him. However, if Aegon were to suffer a tragic accident in battle, well, that is just the fortunes of war, is it not? Nobody could blame Aemon for that. In fact, he will be celebrated for avenging his brother by killing Rhaenys and Meleys. It is the perfect crime, hiding premeditated fratricide behind the chaos of dragon combat. And we know Aemon is capable of this kind of calculated violence because he has already done it before. Remember Storm's End? When he chased down his nephew Lucerys on Vhagar and accidentally on purpose fed him to his dragon. Aemon claims it was an accident, that Vhagar got out of control, but come on. You do not accidentally eat someone's nephew. That is like saying you accidentally drove to their house, accidentally knocked on their door, and accidentally punched them in the face. At some point, we have to acknowledge intent. But the evidence goes even deeper. After Rook's Rest, Aemon does not just become Prince Regent, he completely sidelines Aegon. The king is locked away in his chambers, barely conscious, while Aemon makes all the decisions. He takes control of the small council, directs the war strategy, and essentially becomes king in everything but name. And he is not exactly rushing to help Aegon recover either. The Maesters are doing their best, but there is no urgent push to get the king back on his feet. It is almost like someone prefers him incapacitated. Here is another smoking gun that everyone overlooks. Criston Cole, who planned the entire Rook's Rest operation, is Aemon's biggest supporter and has been since the beginning. Cole has no love for Aegon, who treats him like a glorified bodyguard and ignores his counsel constantly. But Aemon? Aemon respects Cole, listens to his advice, and recognizes his value. Is it really that hard to believe that Cole and Aemon might have discussed what would happen if Aegon showed up to the battle? That they might have had a contingency plan that involved letting nature take its course? Cole knows Aegon is impulsive and desperate for glory. All he had to do was make sure word of the battle reached the king's ears, maybe mention how Aemon was going to be the hero of the day, and boom, Aegon would come flying in on Sunfire faster than you can say catastrophic lapse in judgment. The more you examine this battle, the more it looks like a setup. Every piece falls into place too perfectly for it to be coincidence. Aemon gets everything he wants, Aegon loses everything, and the war suddenly has competent leadership on the green side. Rhaenys and Meleys die, which is a massive blow to Team Black, but that almost feels like a bonus prize in a contest where the real goal was removing Aegon from power. And the craziest part? Aemon gets away with it completely. Nobody questions the timeline. Nobody asks why Vhagar was so late to intervene. Nobody wonders if maybe the Prince Regent benefited just a little too much from his brother's near-death experience. History remembers Aemon as the hero of Rook's Rest, the dragon rider who avenged his fallen brother by destroying Meleys and Rhaenys. It is perfect propaganda, and it completely obscures the betrayal at the heart of the battle. This is Game of Thrones at its finest, people. Not the honorable battles and clear-cut heroes, but the murky betrayals and calculated murders disguised as accidents. Aemon learned from the best, from his grandfather Otto High